Hi, I'm Kelly Ballman with the Salvation Army Samaritan Center. We offer adult day services to people from the community. We help families take care of their loved ones and give a sense of purpose to the participants. I invite you to stop in or call to see what our program has to offer. We are located on West Hubert Avenue in Lancaster, and our phone number is 740-687-1921. Remember, the Samaritan Center changes how you live, not where you live.
Tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. My special guest today, the Executive Director of Lancaster Fairfield Public Transit, Carrie Woody. How you doing, kid?
Good. Thanks for having me on today.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I am absolutely glad you're here.
You say that now.
No, it's always a treat to have you on. Always a treat.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been. It's been a while. There's new administration and all that down there. But talk a little bit about the transit system itself. It's grown. From what it was. How long have you been there now?
So I am working on 8 years now.
Wow.
How fast has that gone?
Yeah. Did you think you'd be there 8 years? Did you?
No.
Yeah.
In fact, when they hired me for transit, in my interview, they said, okay, here's the deal. You have a year, and you can either make this work, or you cannot work. And we're just going to shut it down. At the time, it was kind of failing. They were losing money on the system, and so I thought, well, I'm working through December, and then I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. That was 8 years ago, and here I am. And I guess I decided I wanted to have a job. So we've gone from 9 vehicles, or actually 8 vehicles when I first started. We are now at 26 vehicles. We're adding 4 more later this year.
Wow.
And we've gone from about 45,000 rides a year to 112,000 last year, and we're going to be over 120,000 this year.
Now, is there a website people can go get schedules, or just talk a little
We're
bit?
just on the regular city's website. I think ci.lancaster.oh.us. And under the city's website, they list all of the departments, and you just go to the Department of Transit, and it has all of our information about how to ride, what services we offer, and all of our bus schedules.
And you go outside of the city. I think
We
that
do.
people think, no, it's just the city transit. But
Yes. And so we actually go through all of Fairfield County. So we are a city department that runs a county service that's governed by the state. So,
hit
like
'em
you
all.
said, Mike, we're government. We're here to help. I feel like I have 3 sets of bosses sometimes.
When you first started, and you look, because it was 8 years ago, and you had that 1-year window, did you ever think it'd get to where it is now? Because you've done a
No.
tremendous job, Carrie, let's face it. I mean, what you've done and the people that need this service is outstanding.
Well, I appreciate that. No, I never thought we would be here. In fact, so we made it through year 1, barely, in the red, definitely a very small carryover. Not even enough to probably pay my first 2 weeks' bills. But we kept trying, and as the commissioners will attest, and every village and every township in Fairfield County will attest, I went out on my hands and knees begging for support, and so we grew. And I thought, around 2011, this is going to work, we're doing great, and then the state comes in and says, by the way, we're cutting funding. So where we used to get 80% of our funding from state and federal funds, we now get about 44% of state and federal funds. And so we've had to really be creative and work hard to figure out how to keep our service going and getting better every day with a lot less funding. So we got creative. We have wonderful partners, Fairfield County Board of DD, the commissioners, all the townships and villages in Fairfield County. The city obviously has been very supportive. Job and Family Services, Meals on Wheels, so many community partners that have helped us get to where we are.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah.
When I know that Brian Coon came in as a new mayor, and was there a little bit of, oh, what's he going to do? What am I going to do? I mean, or was it, Brian's a good guy. I mean, I like Brian.
Brian's a really good guy, and I think that I told you earlier, my biggest concern of him coming in was that he was too nice to be a mayor, because he's just always so super nice. And he's done a great job. He and then having Paul Martin as Service Safety Director, they are a great team. They get along great. And it's just been a really wonderful experience. They've done a great job. And not saying anything bad about Mayor Smith. I loved him too. He was wonderful and we miss him. But Brian, he has done a really good job.
Let's talk a little bit about the service.
Yes.
Who can ride it? How do you get tickets? What are your tokens? How's it work?
So anyone can ride. They can ride for any reason. And I was actually in a meeting earlier today, and they asked, well, how young can they ride? Our youngest rider, who rides alone, is 3 years old.
Wow.
The child's in a mobility device, and they live in Baltimore. They wanted the child to attend a preschool, but they didn't have an accessible vehicle to transport their child back and forth. So they used transit to get their child to and from preschool. And probably not good for everyone, but it works, and the child does great. The drivers treat him like it's their own child. We have school agers that ride to football practice or baseball practice, or kids that go to piano practice. We have teenagers going to work. We have moms going to OUL for post-secondary education, all the way up to those 80 and 90-year-old seniors. So anybody can ride.
Why are you looking at me when you said that?
Because I'm talking to you, Mike.
It's okay.
I'm not saying anything.
That's all right.
But aren't you retiring soon?
Yeah, close, hopefully.
Okay.
One of the people always ask, how do you do the routes? Who comes up with the routes? That's by demand, I would imagine.
It's a little bit of both. So actually, I worked with your department. We worked with economic development. We worked with Fairfield County Regional Planning. James Mako and Holly Matty were instrumental in this. The Fairfield Housing Coalition, Donna Foxmore. We used a lot of different people to help us with these route planning. And so what we did is we looked at where our current demand was, the trips that we're currently making, those high trip generators, so places that we're at a lot. And then with all those other departments looked at, okay, where do employers need transportation for their employees? And then where do the people need transportation, whether it be low income, senior housing, things like that. So James Mako actually had mapped for us every low income housing and senior housing development in Fairfield County. And so we kind of did that, and then an overlay with all of those high trip generators and those employment centers, and that's how we came up with our routes.
Now, do you get people call in and say, well, I live out here, how come you don't drive all the way out here?
Absolutely, every day. And so what's really nice about our routes, though, is so we have, unlike maybe COTA, where it's a true fixed route, it's get on, get off, and the bus is only stopping at the bus stop. We have designated stops on our routes. However, we do deviated routes. So that means if you live within 3/4 of a mile of one of our stops, or you want to stop somewhere within 3/4 of a mile, we can kind of zigzag on and off our route to get you where you need to go. And it still keeps it efficient for us, it keeps it efficient for the rider, and that really helps us. And especially being in a rural setting versus an urban setting, we have a lot of individuals that can't necessarily get to a bus stop because maybe the sidewalks aren't accessible, or maybe the streets aren't accessible. Or they live, maybe outside the city limits. So that's what makes ours a little bit unique, and so it does help us a lot.
Is it a pass? Is it exact change? How do you pay for it?
Either or. And so if you're riding the routes like the Memorial Express, the East Loop, or the West Loop, it's 50-cent fares, and you do have to have exact change, or you can purchase from our office a 31-day unlimited pass for $30. And that allows you to ride any of those routes unlimited times for 31 days.
I know we talked about going out. How far do you actually go? I mean, do you go to Pascal, Winchester, Groveport?
So we do. So legally, we're allowed to go 100 miles outside of our service. So 100 miles from Fairfield County.
Wow.
If we need to and if we have buses available. So we have gone to like the Cleveland Clinic before to take people for medical.
The Cleveland Clinic?
Yes, we have.
Wow.
And then on a regular basis, so pretty much daily, we are at a COTA bus stop. What we do is we'll take individuals who maybe they work in Columbus, or they're wanting to go to Columbus for some, medical treatment. I know spring and summer this sounds silly, but we have people that will ride our bus to get to a COTA line to go to Clippers games.
Sure. That
So
makes sense.
we go to COTA bus stops on a regular basis and then transfer people so that they can get into Columbus and Franklin County and do what they need to do. So we do that a lot. We also meet on the county line, Licking County Transit, Pickaway County Transit, so if people need to get back and forth between the counties. But we can take our buses outside of the county when we need to.
That's a lot of coordination. Did you just call people and say, hey, let's do this?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, it's the way our federal grants work. If we take someone outside of the county lines, they have to pay $30 plus for a one-way trip. And that's just because of the federal restrictions, which I'm sure you're very familiar with things. But if I take them to a COTA bus stop, they can pay me a $2 fare and then pay COTA a $2 fare, and it now becomes a $4 trip. So it makes it much more affordable for them and way more efficient for us.
Tips for people riding a bus?
Tips: have exact change. Your driver will appreciate it. And if you don't want to have exact change, again, call us. We'll get you a pass. We can make arrangements to get you that pass. Not a big deal. If you're carrying groceries, we ask that you limit to 4 bags. And if you're going to have over 4 bags, be prepared to pay a quarter for each bag that you bring on extra, because what that does is we actually have to put those bags in other people's seats to help secure them so we don't have groceries flying through the bus. If you're traveling with a young child, we are required to follow all of the Ohio Revised Code when it comes to child seats. So if you're going to have someone, we ask that you bring your own child seat. Now, a lot of our buses now, we have integrated child seats, but in the event that those are already taken before you get on, you need to be prepared to have something with you.
Oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought.
Too much to think about?
Yeah, 24 hours, or do they go certain times? When does it stop? When does it?
So our three routes, the 1, the 2, the 3, they operate Monday through Friday.
And 1 is Memorial Express,
Yep.
2 is East End Loop.
Correct.
And 3 is West Loop.
Correct. So they operate the Memorial operates 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. The other 2, 7 to 5. Reason being those other 2 start early is because we have a lot of individuals for that West Loop that go out to the industrial park, the Rockville Industrial Park, and so a lot of them need to be there for shift change by 7.
Right. So do you call employers and say, how do you want us to do this, or do you just?
When we were setting up the routes, we contacted the industrial park and asked all of their HR directors, like shift changes, when they needed transportation, and so we did talk to them.
Right. The people always talk about schedule. Oh, I just missed the bus. You should be there a few minutes ahead of time anyway. I'm
Always
assuming.
be there at least 2 minutes ahead of time. That way you make sure that you're locating where the stop actually is, and the driver can see you as they approach that stop to know that yes, you are waiting on the bus.
Bike racks? Do you have bike racks?
We do not. Okay. I would love to have bike racks. Do you know anybody willing to pay for them?
Is it just something that they could be made and put on the bus, or they had to be custom made, or?
They could be custom made, but there are actually bicycle racks made for our buses that just get mounted onto the front of the bus. A lot of the bigger systems like COTA, Chicago, some of those bigger systems have them on their buses. It's an additional cost that we just haven't incurred because we'd rather have buses on the road than putting that into bike racks. But if we could get someone to pay for that, that would be wonderful.
Great. Just get a hold of Carrie. What's your number they should call? What should they call?
740-681-5086. And please call.
Absolutely.
You can foot that bill, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Talk about the numbers when you first started out to where you are now, because it's amazing.
And again, it's been a whirlwind, and I'd love to take the credit, but it really wasn't me. It was really the community who just kind of embraced this. Again, we started out in 2009. We had about 44,000 rides, and we were doing that with 8 vehicles. Most of them were just sedans. They were retired police cruisers.
I remember those.
So they worked great. And we grew. In 2010, 2011, we actually started doing the county-wide service instead of just the city of Lancaster. Until last year, again, we had almost 112,000 rides. And then so far this year, we're already up about 30% over our ridership last year, and we're projected to be over 120,000 rides this year.
You talked about buses. What's a bus cost? You said you're going to add 4 new ones?
Yes. So the average buses are anywhere from $65,000 to $75,000. Now, we are very fortunate. Those are all paid with federal grant funds. Usually they're paid at about 80% with federal funds, 20% local funds. And so, again, we contract with a lot of individuals here locally that help support us to continue replacing those buses. Now, this year we ordered 4 because we are going to start 2 new routes in Pickerington. And we're going to start those in fall. And those routes will be just like the 3 that we do in Lancaster currently. And we're going to have a north route and a south route in Pickerington that will hit COTA bus stops, Diley Ridge Medical, the New Ohio Health, and just several stops. And so we're going to use 2 buses for that. Next year we're adding another route here in Lancaster. And then hopefully by the end of 2017, going into 2018, we'll have at least 1 or 2 more routes in Pickerington.
Can, can you expand outside of Fairfield County? Now, I mean, I know you go outside, but can you go into Pickaway County and Licking County? Do you have to call them and say, hey, would you?
We don't have to call, but again, because of our federal restrictions, once we cross that county line, we have to charge people a
yeah,
lot
that's
more
right.
money because we don't get reimbursed from our grants for
Right.
taking them across county
Sure.
lines.
That's, drivers, how many drivers do you have?
We have about 36 drivers right now.
Whoa.
Mix of full-time and part-time. And then we have about 6 office staff members, and then I have an operations manager.
Fantastic.
So, and then a mechanic. Can't leave out the
Can't
mechanic.
leave out the
He's probably the
mechanic.
most important.
Gotta keep the buzzers running. Do you ever contact other states or organizations, say, hey, how's this work, how you do this? I mean, we're gonna steal some ideas here. How do you
I do. And actually, my first 6 years on the job, every year, I would go out and visit at least 4 transit agencies a year just to get best practices from here, there, and everywhere. And I would do that. It's funny because my poor children, our vacations are always centered around what transit agencies mommy wants to tour.
Hey, that's good, that's all right.
Go to Chicago,
Yeah.
Chicago Metro. Let's
Yeah.
go to DC.
Yeah.
So yeah, in fact, I have an 8-year-old, and it doesn't matter where we are. The first thing she finds at whatever city is a public transit bus. Poor
Well, that's
kid.
good.
There's no hope for her.
Oh, no, she'll do fine. She'll do all right. Have you ever gone anyplace and, well, boy, we could do this? Mm-hmm. I mean,
Yes.
did you just come back and say, okay, this is what we're gonna do, or?
It's kind of funny, but yes. And so the big joke in my office is that when I walk through the door, smiling and say, I have an idea, they all say, please let us sit down first. And usually it doesn't take long for us to implement it. What's really nice is now that we've started these routes, more people can get on. It's a lot more accessible because they don't have to call us. They can just get on, get off when they want. It's really opened up a lot of our funds. And so it allows us to do more, even though we have less funding. And so I'm a firm believer that you don't get better unless you keep changing.
Oh, sure.
And so I keep changing, and boy, my staff, their head spins.
Oh, that's all right,
But it's
though.
fun.
That's good.
So yeah.
Talk a little bit about 2015, the number of rides, because I know back when you started this and compared to a 2015, there's quite a few. Give us some statistics about it.
And so we did, like I said, just under 112,000 rides. The best part, I think, about all of this, again, is because we've really focused on being more efficient and how do we do more with less?
Right.
I mean, everybody says it,
Right.
but we really wanted to do it. So we actually, just to give you an idea, like our total operating cost. The year before, we did 92,000 trips in 2014. Our operating cost was $1.5 million. Last year, we increased our ridership by 20,000 people, and we decreased our operating budget. It was 1.4.
Wow.
So that's what we like to take pride in. And we're still not meeting all the needs. I mean, we still have people that call that we cannot get to them, and we can't accommodate everyone's request. But we have done a lot more than we did before. We're doing it with less, and that's what really keeps us going, and it helps us.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah.
We have some pictures.
I love this one.
And you can go, these flip about every 20 seconds or so. So this is the logo.
The beautiful logo that actually a city employee created for me. She did that out of the kindness of her heart. She does marketing, and she created that for us, which was awesome. The back of our bus, which oftentimes now you'll see a lot of advertising on those.
Which is a good thing, right?
Yes, we
If you
sell
wanna advertise,
advertising on our
okay.
buses, and we use that as local revenue. That's one of those creative things that we did to help
Sure.
offset those state and federal funds that were cut. So you can see the little 211 ad in there. So yeah, we've tried to get creative. Our Live Drug Free shirts we wear every October. Tony Ashton with Prevention Works
Sure,
buys
yeah.
those for our drivers, and our drivers love it because they get to wear jeans and a t-shirt
That's fantastic.
instead of a uniform. So yeah.
That is
We
absolutely.
have fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that you would want to do? Boy, if Brian Coon walked in, or one of those agencies said, "Here's the money. What are you going to do with it?"
I'm going to build a transit center.
Okay, all right.
So I'm sure you're familiar. We currently have all of our routes that meet on Wheeling, West Wheeling, right across from Job and Family Services.
Yep.
They meet there once an hour and transfer people back and forth between the routes. It works, but it's not the best.
Sure.
We would love to have an actual transit center where people could come in and sit and wait on the buses to get there, be able to sell tickets and passes out of that transfer center, and have a canopy that covers the buses to transfer so nobody has to wait in the rain. Transit center would be awesome.
Oh my God, where would you put it? I mean, as far as, would you have one in different locations or just have one here?
Probably one centralized, and
Yeah.
where, I don't know.
Yeah.
You asked what I wanted, you didn't ask where. I'd ask Brian what land he was giving me.
Yeah, that would be the easiest thing to do, I guess. The future of transit, as you see it, I mean, more and more people are using it, obviously.
It has continued to grow so much. And it's funny because the state has started recognizing how much we've grown. Most of the other transit agencies are looking at how they can get rid of vehicles because they can't keep them full, and we're out begging for more.
Sure.
So far, we're good. We're viable. We're doing great. We're able to pay our bills, which we had really
sure.
struggled with the first few years. And we keep getting more calls. We get new riders every single day. It amazes me how fast the word has traveled and we've attracted new riders. Starting these routes is huge and has helped a lot. Future transit, I see us adding more routes. Eventually, I'd like to see routes going back and forth from Lancaster to Baltimore, Lancaster to Millersport, Lancaster to Pickerington. Only because when you get into like the court system, the social services and things like that, everything's housed here in Lancaster as the county seat. And those individuals need to get back and forth. And if they don't have a license or they don't have a reliable vehicle, they need a set schedule so that they can plan around our schedule to make sure that they're where they need to get on time, and it's very affordable for them to do. So long-term, long-range, that's kind of where I see us moving to.
Do you get to supply input to state legislators and federal legislators, I guess?
Oh, we can always supply input.
Do they ask you? Do they?
They don't ask.
Oh, okay.
We can supply. I will say, I've met with Representative Schaefer and Senator Balderson. They've both been very nice
Good
and
guys, yep.
wonderful listeners. And, can't say anything bad about them, but there's a whole House and a whole Senate. And,
Sure.
We talk.
Oh, yeah.
We try to get them to listen.
Yeah.
And again, I can't complain because we've had a lot of support, and we've had a lot of local advocates that have gone out and talked to them on our behalf. So we have a lot of support here in the county, and that's really why we've been so successful.
That's fantastic. You've done a great job with
Well,
the
thanks.
whole program. People keep talking about, it's easy to get across town where I have to go. The people that didn't have any transportation before. Is there the next step? I mean, expand the fleet. You talk about 4 buses, but what else could we do legislatively? I mean, I know you talked to Tim, talked to Troy about stuff, but when you look at things in the back of your mind, are you thinking, boy, we can do this?
One of the things I think that has really been a big push for us, but not necessarily throughout the state, is really coordinating with the other transit agencies. We personally try to do that, but not every transit agency does. From a state level, I would really like to see that pushed, where, the transit agencies are talking more on a regular basis to help with that seamless transportation back and forth between the counties.
Right.
Because we are all limited to service within our county at an affordable cost. So statewide, on a higher level, that's kind of where I would like to see a push.
Right. If Carrie Woody were not doing this, besides being a stay-at-home mom, which is a full-time job, but what would Carrie Woody be doing?
Oh, Carrie Woody would be running.
Right, yeah, that's right. I know you do
Yeah.
Dancing with the Stars, and
Oh, yes, thank you for reminding me. It was fun. I didn't win. Still sore, Kurt Lape. But it was fun. Definitely a learning experience. I've had all
How much
kinds
practice did you do to that? How much?
10 lessons, 10 45-minute lessons.
Wow.
So I learned all kinds of stuff I never thought I would learn.
Was it more difficult than you thought it was?
So much more difficult. And you know me. I
Sure,
run,
yeah,
I lift,
yeah,
I teach
yeah,
aerobics.
yeah.
I consider myself pretty athletic, and that just wasn't my thing. And in fact, I'm paired with this professional dancer who's trying to teach me, and I looked at him one day, I said, if you tell me to twinkle one more time, I may punch you in the face. But we got through it. I didn't trip, and I didn't trip him, which was really good. I told him, I said, I'm not worried about breaking my leg. I'm worried about breaking yours. But we got through it, and it was fun.
Now, can you do it again, or does it rotate, or how does it?
Hopefully I don't do it again. I'm not sure that they ever have people come back. But it is for a great cause. It's the Wise Partner with Youth campaign, and wonderful cause. And I was honored to be involved with that because the Y does mean a lot to me.
That's fantastic.
So,
That's
yeah.
well, hopefully next time we'll see you again on that. It'll be
Or not.
or not, or not. Yeah. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on and talking about, one more time, website, phone numbers, schedules, where people can get those. Or?
So phone number is 740-681-5086, or the city's website is ci.lancaster.oh.us. All of our updated schedules are always posted on the website. If you have never ridden with us and you just want to talk about how to ride, or if you'd like someone to ride with you, we always are willing to go out and meet you and help you ride the bus for the first few times so that you get used to those routes and learn how to transfer and learn how to read the schedules. We're always willing to do that. So anyone can call us and we'll do that.
I did have one lady ask about Kuhn Path Road, and I know you at one time were looking into that. But I know that's a whole different segment out there.
And that we're looking at for probably 2017.
Okay.
We are actually on Kuhn Path a lot, and some of the expansions that have been talked about with Fairfield Career Center, just adding, not necessarily the building, but adding the classes, working with the Educational Service Center. They were going to do some programming out there. So depending on what develops and what the need is, we definitely have that on our radar.
That's a busy intersection. I mean, there's some churches
It
out
is.
there and Sunbelts out there, and just a lot of activity out there.
Yes, well, and there's a charter bus, Go Bus, that stops there at Kuhn Path and 33 that goes back and forth from Athens to Columbus. And so, like college students that are coming from Athens will come there, and we'll go pick them up and then take them to their house here in Fairfield County. And so we are there a lot for different reasons. So yeah, we have talked about running a route that way.
Well, Carrie Woody, the Executive Director of Lancaster Fairfield Public Transit, we appreciate you coming on and giving us an update.
Thanks for having me.
And enjoy the weekend. And
Likewise.
no, oh yeah, I will. Don't worry. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective.
In 1929 in Chicago, a gentleman by the name of Marion Wade, a former minor league baseball player, started the company. It was just a moth-proofing company then. In 1952, it expanded to carpet cleaning and pioneered what is now called outsourcing. And the Sidwells wanted a community that had a lot of churches, had a lot of soccer opportunities where kids love soccer, and a good Parks and Rec department, so they chose Lancaster. And so in 1980, they moved the franchise here in Lancaster to 6th Avenue. But then in 2002, Todd George, current owner, purchased the franchise from them. And in 2004, he bought a building that's on Mulberry Street, and that's where the franchise is located currently. I'm Jay Johnson, General Manager of Service Master Clean by Todd George, where we guarantee if it's not done right the first time, we'll do it again.
Service Master Clean by Todd George, 740-687-1077, 740-687-1077.